This is a recording of the Library Research Strategies workshop in the EADS workshop series, corresponding to the Biology 202 lab course. My name is Amy Jankowski, and I'm the biology librarian here at the University of New Mexico. In this session, I'm going to talk about some key resources and services available through the UNM Library website, as well as get you started on your research strategies for your annotated bibliography project, going over some of our databases, constructing search strategies, finding keywords, and other things to get you started. So to start off, I'm here on the library website, which is at library.unm.edu. There's also a link in the Learn platform. So some things to keep in mind are the different hours information for our campus libraries, including Centennial, which is our science and engineering library. So I clicked on the Centennial link, and from here you can see that this page is largely the same as the main library page, but you can see more detailed hours information, have a direct phone number to the science library, also see some of our recommended core science databases here. And then scrolling down, you could see some information about what's inside our library. Computers, different group study rooms, the math mall where you may have some of your introductory mathematics courses meetings, our map library, and also a floor plan to help you get around and find our resources. Okay, just going back to the main homepage again, the main library homepage. Some other things that you want to keep in mind are these 4 resources here marked by the red square icons. So one of the most important ones is interlibrary loan. And this is a great thing to keep in mind if you need a resource that we don't have directly here in our collections. You can use this to request that we borrow it from another library. And that can either be a full book that will come physically through the mail, or a journal article or book chapter, which we'll be able to deliver electronically as a PDF. So you can access that here directly through this link. Basically, it will ask you to log in with your NetID and password. And from there, you can request any item that you may want. But it's also embedded into our catalog, which I'll explain in a little bit. Another thing to keep in mind is course reserves. We have textbooks on reserve for a number of courses, so if this is something you're interested in, you can check it out at the library or ask your professor to put materials on reserve if they are not there. You can also renew your books directly. You don't have to come in, you don't have to call, you could just log in again with your information. You'll have to set up your password the first time that you do this, but it's a really easy way to do that. And then you can also reserve a room, meaning a study room. So when you click on that link, it'll bring you to a page with additional links to all of our 4 main campus libraries. So I'm going to click on Centennial Library right now. And from here, you can see that I'm recording this on Labor Day, so we don't see anything available. But if I choose a date from the calendar over here, I'll choose Tuesday. You can see all the different times that you're able to reserve a room. And you can reserve a slot of up to 2 hours per day in any of our libraries, but just 2 hours between all of the libraries each day. So to find more information about each of these rooms, you can hover over the little I for information icon next to any of the rooms on the table, and it'll tell you a little bit about what you can find in the rooms. So most of these are equipped with table, chairs, either chalkboard and dry erase board. And then we also have a bit of a larger room that has a flat panel screen that you can use to practice presentations on. You can hook up your laptop so that your screen displays on this larger screen. So it's good for presentation practice, group projects, different things like that. And then also you can see the capacity for each of these rooms. And you could toggle between the different libraries and set the capacity that you need. And again, this operates through your NetID and password, so it's a really easy way to set aside a room or for a quiet place for your group to study. We also have individual study rooms in Centennial Library, but those don't need to be reserved in advance. Those are just first come, first serve. Some other things to keep in mind are our different search options. We have a basic quick search. You could search specifically for books or for journals. We also have a portal to our databases right in the center of our homepage, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But perhaps the most important thing to keep in mind is this Ask a Librarian information up here in the upper right corner. So this is basically how you can get in contact with a librarian to ask questions that may not be obvious when you're using the library. So those can be super basic questions like how do I renew a book, how many books can I check out at a time, to more advanced questions related to research strategies, different resources, things like that. So I'm going to click on Ask a Librarian now. It'll bring me to a little bit of a different page. But here you can see the different ways you can contact us. You can call us, you can text the library, you could send an email if it's a bit more of a detailed question you want to ask. And you could also chat with us. Right now, I'm recording this at a time that our chat is offline, but typically there will be a little chat box here, and it works just like any other instant messenger. You can chat back and forth with a librarian in real time. And then we also have a FAQ section, so if you're answering or if you're asking a super basic question that we frequently answer, you can search for that here. So I'll type in, how do I renew my library books? And as I'm typing, you can see that a lot of different questions pop up, and I can just select from this list. And when I do, a new page opens up, and then I can get a quick answer. Going back to that page, I also want to show you this subject librarian link over here in the right-hand column. So I can click that and see a list of different librarians who specialize in certain areas. So I'm the biology librarian, so you could see my contact information here, alongside the biology subject. But if you're working in a different area, say art history, I'm probably not the best person to contact for that, but you can see Stephanie Bean's contact information for art history. So good thing to keep in mind both for your biology course as well as for other courses that you take throughout your career at UNM. I'm just going to go back to the main library homepage and point out one more way that you can get help, which is over here on the left-hand side, we have this research help tab. So I'm going to click that. And then from there, you can either search or you can select one of our research guides that our librarians have created on different subjects. So today I'm going to click biology because this is our biology course. And from here you could see links to a number of different research guides on different biology topics. So often there will be a general guide like this top one related to biology in general, but then we also have different links for course guides, which are often created by our librarians when we do library instruction sessions for different courses. So I'm going to click on the Biology 202 guide. So typically what you'll find in these guides, again, is contact information for your subject librarian working in that area. So here's my smiling face and all the different ways that you can get in touch with me. You can also schedule an appointment directly with this handy link here. Sometimes it'll think for a couple minutes before a calendar will pop up, but eventually, here we go. You could see all the different times that the librarian is available, and you could just click one of those times to set up an appointment. And you'll be able to fill out this little question form just about your contact information and reason for your appointment. So a good handy way to get in touch to get help from your librarian. Typically also on these guides, you'll have different links to resources on the left-hand side. So this is where you navigate through the guide, is through these different tabs. So here we have some information specifically about your annotated bibliography project. So some search tips, different ways to approach finding resources. And then we also have links to recommended article databases, which would be handy to use for this project. So the library has a lot of different databases, and it can be a little overwhelming to sort through all of those. So here we've selected a number of them that may be helpful for the specific project and a good scope for the information you're looking for. Typically, Web of Science is a great one that we recommend for a lot of different areas of science. Biosis is a little bit more life science focused, but these actually run off the same platform. So either of these would be great options for you. Zoological Record also runs off of the same platform as Web of Science and Biosis, but that's more zoology related. And then PubMed is a great source if you're interested in biomedical information for your topic's related to medicine, veterinary medicine, anything like that, healthcare related. Also, we have more of an ecology database here that can be a good source if you're researching something related to, let's say, population genetics. That might be a good option for you. And then Academic Search Complete is more of a general database, but it can also be a good option to search when you're just starting out. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the home page of this guide. Then also go back to the main library page, which I have open in this other tab here. So these databases, which are linked here from the center of the home page, this is another way to find a good database for your research. So if you know the title of your database, let's say we're looking for Web of Science, you can just click on the letter associated with that title, and from there, a list of databases starting with that letter will come up. And here we have Web of Science. There are a couple links which can be a little confusing, but this platform actually runs a lot of different databases, so you can search all of them through all databases, or you could just search the core collection, which is also a good option. So if you want more information about any of these databases in the list, you can just click in the white space kind of surrounding that title, and a little explanation will pop up to give you some more information to help you choose what might work for you. Okay, and then going back to the home page of our library site, just want to do a sample search in the library's quick search, which is basically our catalogs. This is kind of the library's version of Google because it's going to search across a lot of different resources and different databases. It doesn't exactly search everything that the library has access to, but it does search a lot of the things that we have. So let's just search on a topic. We'll do Southwest ecology, just to show you a little bit about how this search works. So it's going to prompt me to log in because I'm accessing from off-site. So if you're not on campus, this will pop up for you as well. So you just need to sign in with your UNM username and password, or your NetID and password. Okay, so this is a list of results that come up. And as you can see, we got a lot of results with the search, over 37,000. So I just want to talk about a few ways to limit these results down to be a bit more effective. The first thing to keep in mind is, as you can see over in this left-hand column, there's a box checked for libraries worldwide. So this catalog actually searches way beyond our holdings here at UNM. It's a consortial catalog, so it searches the resources in libraries basically all over the United States and all over the world. So if you just want to see resources that are directly available here at UNM, either in our physical collections or our online collections, you can click these UNM boxes. So I'm just going to click UNM main campus. There's also a box for the health and the law library. So now our results are narrowed down to just over 29,000, but that's still quite a few. So as you can see, when you see the different items in the list, you'll be able to see what format those are in on the second line after the author information. So we see books, we see ebooks, and also in these results you can find journals, you could find journal articles, all different kinds of things. But if you're just interested in a specific format, scrolling down, there's this format information here in the left-hand column. This is where you can limit your results to only a certain format. So let's say we just want to use this search to find scientific articles. We don't want books, we just want articles, so I'm going to click this article box, which will then narrow our search down even more. Another thing that I like to use to narrow my results further, you can narrow by database, which is potentially a little bit confusing for a beginning researcher. Probably author is going to be a little bit too specific for us, but something I like to do is to limit by year. So let's say I just want pretty current information. I can type in a range of years, let's say 2012 through 2016. and then click the Change Year button. And from there, I'll be narrowed down even further. But you can see I still have more than 10,000 results, so that's quite a lot. I might have too broad of a topic that I'm searching, or this might just not be the best database to use. Since it is searching across so many different subject areas, a quick search can actually be a pretty difficult way to find articles when you're just starting out in your research. It can be really great if you're just looking for a specific article and you actually have the title of that article. Say you're working off of a citation that you found somewhere. That can be a really great way to find the full text of an article that you already know exists, but it's hard when you're just starting out with a general topic. But if it is something that you're searching, I just want to point out, here we see the format is listed as article, and we also have this peer-reviewed information on here. So peer review, if you're not familiar with that concept, it basically indicates a review process that many journal articles go through to ensure that the information communicated in them is based on sound research, sound methodology, and sound logic of conclusions. So journals, which if you're not familiar, are basically like scientific magazines. They're created by scientists for scientists. And the content in them is a lot more technical than you would find in something like a popular magazine. But it's published on that same sort of periodical schedule where issues are published over time. And the peer review process is something that's applied to several different types of articles. Commonly, when we say peer-reviewed articles, that's often used synonymously with the term scholarly articles or even just journal articles. There are other types of articles in journals that are not peer-reviewed, but those are typically shorter. A lot of times they're news pieces, commentaries, book reviews. But what we often mean when we say peer-reviewed articles or scholarly articles is actually a specific type of article called an original research article. What that means is that basically the article is documenting an experiment or documenting the full scope of the research process. So I just want to bring up this little graph of the scientific method. So basically, an original research article will kind of go through all of these steps of the scientific method, which is similar to what you do in your lab reports when you're in a science lab class. So basically you make observations, you do some background research to formulate your questions, you construct a hypothesis, then kind of go through your experiment, gather data, analyze that data, make conclusions about that data, and then communicate results of that full process. And that's where these original research articles come in. It's the core way that scientists communicate this type of original research. Going back to our results list, there are other types of articles that are peer-reviewed that aren't original research. Typically these are review articles, so those would be an overview of a topic, and they're not creating an actual experiment or generating any new results. So they're summarizing existing papers and relating all of that information back to the original topic. So the way that you can tell that an article is original research, which is what you do need for your annotated bibliography project, is just to make sure that you see that documentation of an original experiment. These articles often also follow a specific structure known as IMRD. So they have an introduction, they show the methods of how an experiment was conducted. So that's IM, introduction methods. And then R would be for results, so the actual data, the results generated through an experiment. And then D is for discussion, so that section is presenting an analysis of the data and conclusions that are drawn from that data related back to the research question and hypothesis. So that's definitely what you want to be looking out for when you're trying to figure out if you're looking at an original research article. So again, just because something says peer-reviewed doesn't necessarily mean it's an original research article. You need to make sure that it's actually showing an experiment and the results of that experiment. If you want to limit to peer-reviewed articles, you can use this content limiter over here on the left-hand side. But again, the quick search probably isn't going to be the best way to go about finding articles when you're just starting out with your research. Before I explore some of the other databases, I do want to just point out really quickly, I'm going to click into the source record, and I want to show you how you can use that interlibrary loan function. So this is an article that we have access to here at UNM. You can see on this Access Full Text Online area, we actually have numerous access points for this journal. So it can be a little bit confusing, but some of our journal packages overlap, and we often get certain articles or certain content through multiple avenues. So something to keep in mind. But the interlibrary loan link that I want to point out, it actually functions through this request item link here, this red button. And you'll see this in records regardless of whether or not they're in our collection. So this serves a dual purpose in that if this is an item in our collection and it's something that's only available physically, not online, you can actually use that link to request that the library scans a copy of that article or book chapter or whatnot for you and then delivers it electronically. If it's a full book that you want, we can pull it from the stacks and have it waiting for you at our circulation desk. But if it's not something that's in our collection, that same button will, when you request that item, it will route through interlibrary loan, and then we'll be able to borrow it typically from another library. So a good thing to keep in mind if you need something that isn't in our collections, or if you need something and you're not able to come in person to the library to see it, if we do have it in our collections. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the library homepage, and I want to talk a little bit about searching in our other databases. So when we use the word databases in libraries, typically we're talking about different collections of published literature that you can search for different topics. So we have databases related to the arts, we have databases related to social sciences. Databases can be super broad or super narrow, just kind of depends on that individual product. So another way that we can find biology databases, I know I showed you the list available in the research guide, but you can also find them through this subject list associated with databases on the library homepage. So I'm going to click biology, and from there I see another list of recommended databases for biology topics. So again, I can click on the white space next to the title and see a description of that resource. And for our purposes today, we're going to use the Web of Science core collection. So I'm going to click through. Before we get to searching, I want to talk a little bit about formulating a search. So I'm going to open this Word document where I have a predetermined search typed out. When you're formulating your own research question for a project, like your annotated bibliography project, you want to make sure that the scope of that question or topic is appropriate for the scope of your project. So for this annotated bibliography, you need to find 3 sources related to a specific topic. You don't want your question or your research topic to be so broad that it's impossible to really adequately cover it within the scope of those 3 articles. So a variation on this question here that would be too broad would just be maybe, what are the genetics of turtles? It's kind of a weird way to phrase it, but what I basically mean is that turtle genetics is just way too broad of a topic. There are so many aspects of turtle genetics that could be covered that just with 3 articles, you're not really going to be able to adequately explore and define that topic in the span of your project. A question that would potentially be too narrow would be, let's say a similar question to this: what are the genetic mechanisms of temperature-dependent sex determination in a certain species of turtle? Maybe there really isn't enough research on that one species to have generated numerous articles around that topic. So it may be more appropriate to use a general term like turtles, where there may be more research conducted, so that you have enough sources to start your project. And another thing to keep in mind is when you're picking out a topic, it can be easier to try to formulate it as a question. It can help you think about what you're really trying to find, as opposed to just phrasing that as a statement. So this example here is a good format to emulate. The next thing I want to talk about are keywords. So when we're searching for a research topic in library databases, it's typically recommended that you use keywords or core concepts of your research topic or question, as opposed to writing out that full question like you might in something like Google. So what we're looking to do is distill this topic down into the essential elements. The first might be genetics, just to cover this genetic mechanisms aspect. The next would have something to do with temperature dependence. Another way to express temperature dependence could be environmental. It can be helpful to think of synonyms related to the different key terms that you're coming up with. The next essential element here is sex determination. And then, of course, turtles. Oops. So when you kind of distill this down to these core concepts or keywords, it can be helpful to then look at those keywords to think about more synonyms, to think about different ways to express those concepts, and then to think about different formats or different variations on these terms that we might want to use to explore this topic. So one thing that you might want to think about is using this asterisk, which is considered a truncation symbol in a lot of library databases, including Web of Science, which we'll be using. So what this basically means is that it allows for variant word endings. So if I put the asterisk after the term genetic, I'm going to be searching for the term genetic, but also the term genetics, plural, with an S. This might seem a little bit odd if you're used to searching things like Google, where this type of thing is done automatically through their algorithm. But library databases allow you to be very precise by using very precise terms. So instead of automatically doing this for you, they allow you to define exactly what you want and don't want. That can be a good thing to do there. We can also put it at the end of dependent, so we can have temperature dependent and temperature dependence. So I'm sorry, get rid of the T and then put it just after the N there. We might also want to use it at the end of environment, so we get environment as well as environmental. Then with the term sex determination, we might want to consider searching that as a phrase. So we can put quotation marks around it, which will indicate to the database that we want to find those two terms together. With turtles, again, we can use the truncation symbol just with turtle, but we can also search on variations like maybe, tortoise, and maybe even reptile. So that would indicate related animals, related reptiles, but that can also indicate the scientific term for reptilia. We just want the truncation symbol after the L, so we can get reptile, reptiles, as well as reptilia, the scientific term. So going back to our database, I'm going to shrink the screen of each of these so we can see them alongside each other. And then we're going to go about constructing our actual search in the database. So Web of Science defaults to a home screen that looks similar to something like Google with just one search box. But we can click Add Another Field to kind of expand this and help us understand the way that we're connecting these terms. So first I'm going to put in, let's say, genetic, again with that asterisk. And then we can ask to search that term in different fields. I'm going to pick topic because it's probably the most useful when you're just starting out in a topical search. You don't want to search for a specific author or title at this point. You just want to search more generally. And then you could see that there's this option to use and, or not as a way to connect terms in these different fields. So what that means is that, let's type in our next term. We'll use environment. So basically what we're saying with this and connector is that we want both of these terms to appear in the records that we find. If we were to use or, we would be saying that we wanted either of these terms. So or is actually going to give you a bigger set of results because you're saying I want either genetics or environment in this record. But and is going to require that they are both in the record. We can also use those connectors, which are called Boolean operators. We can use those connectors within each of these search fields, as well as connecting the different boxes. So within this field, I'm going to put environment or temperature, because those are two different types of synonyms, and either one would be appropriate to find in our records. In this next box, I'm going to do sex determination as a phrase. And then I'm going to add one more field to put turtle, again with the truncation symbol. Then I'm going to also include tortoise, so I'm going to say turtle or tortoise. It can find either of those in the records. And then or reptile, again with the truncation symbol. So using these four fields here, I'm getting one of each of our core keyword concepts. And then we'll see what we find by clicking search. Before I do that, I just want to point out that you can also, from this home screen here, limit by year. So we're searching. I'm going to expand this to the full screen so we can see everything that's going on in the database. But as you can see, we got 179 results, which can potentially be workable if we're conducting a pretty large research project. But we want to kind of narrow that down a little bit further since we only need 3 sources to cover this topic. If you want to kind of play around with the different views, you can click sort by, and then all of your results can be sorted through different ways. Right now we have the newest articles first, sorted by newest to oldest, but you can also sort by time cited, first author alphabetically. You can also use the relevance algorithm, which basically looks at the articles that are the most relevant to all of the search terms that you listed. So that's something that I kind of like to use. Scrolling down, I want to also show you the different ways that you can further refine your results. So here we have Web of Science categories, which are kind of like topic areas. This can be a good way to find articles that are published in specific fields. So let's say for this topic, for your genetics course, it'd be great to limit to genetics heredity as a topic, and maybe also evolutionary biology, since those things are pretty well related. And then we can click refine. Now we're narrowed down to just 55 results. We can limit further using document types. So this kind of brings up that concept I was mentioning earlier about original research articles and review articles. So here in this database, article is the general term that's used to indicate original research articles. And review would be those review articles, both of which are peer-reviewed. But for this project, we only want original research articles, so we'll click there and then click refine. We don't want any of those other types of resources either. Okay, so now we're down to 46 results. I want to show you the last way I like to limit when I'm searching at this stage is by publication year. So I can click this little arrow to expand this box, and then I can select any of these boxes to include articles in that year. I'm going to hit more options and values, which will bring up every year. And initially these are sorted by number of articles per year, record count, but I can sort instead by alphabetical, which will show these in chronological order. So I'm going to choose 2016, 2014, 2012, 2011. Let's say I just want the most recent articles. And then I can click Refine. So now we're down to just 13 articles, which is a pretty manageable number. Some things I want to point out in our article list are just the information that you can find. So first you see the title of the article, of course, then you'll see the author information, then the journal that this article is published in, the volume and issue number of that journal, and pages, as well as publication date. You can also hit the View Abstract button to show the full article abstract within this view of results. It can also be helpful to click into one of these records though, because there's a little bit more information. So you'll see a lot of those same information points: authors, journal, issue information, date, abstract. And then another thing that's great to keep in mind is this keywords section. So this is a great thing that you can use to potentially find more keywords that you can incorporate into your search if you haven't found exactly the types of information that you need. Let's say this article is super relevant to the type of information you want to find. You might use some of these search terms to find more articles in the same subject area. You can also click on any of these to explore other articles using those subject terms, but it'll show you every article using those subject terms. So a lot of these might be super unrelated to your topic. One more thing that might be useful is the citation network information here on the right-hand side. So here you could see the cited references within this paper. So this paper here has cited 104 references, and you can click on that to see basically the full bibliography from this paper. And potentially you may want to look through here to see if there are any articles that this original article is citing that you might also want to look through for potential use as other sources in your paper. But we'll go back to that original record, and I also want to show you this times cited. This is a really cool aspect of Web of Science because this is going forward in time, forward in research time. So this shows you other articles that have been published since this article came out in 2011, and these articles are citing back to this paper. That's kind of an interesting way to find more research that's building on that original research that you found. And again, this is another good way to find other articles that may be relevant to your topic area. If you do find something that you're very interested in, you can save this citation information. You can do that using one of these reference managers like EndNote. You can add it to a list that you can use as you're working within Web of Science in this research session. You can also print this information. You can email it to yourself, which is a great way to kind of save it if you don't want to go through the process of using one of these reference managers. And then you can also find full text. So if this is something that you definitely know that you want and you want to get the full text right away, I recommend using this Find at UNM link. This other one uses Google Scholar, which isn't necessarily going through our subscriptions, particularly if you're off-site. But if you click Find at UNM, this will link you back to UNM's library catalog, and it will show you any full text availability for this item. Sometimes you'll find multiple databases where this article can be downloaded, and in that case you always want to make sure that you look at the coverage information to see if the year of the article that you're looking for is covered in that set. So here are articles from 2011. This covers 1999 to present, so this would work. We can click on the journal title, which will link us out to where we can download full text. This one's a little bit interesting because it doesn't link directly to the article, but it shows the platform where we can get it. So what we would need to do is go back to this record in Web of Science, highlight the article title, copy it, then go over again to this article platform. We can click search, so we could search through their resources, paste the article title in the search box, and then here the article comes up in the results, and we could click on it. It will bring up an abstract, and then we could click full PDF. Usually it's a lot easier to link to the full text. This is kind of an anomaly where we had to go through a professional society's database basically to find the full text. So I'll just show you one more example. We'll go back to our results list. And let's use this one, the journal Heredity. We have options to download the full text. To show you how this Find at UNM link typically works, I'm going to click on that one. Here again, you could see how there are multiple options of where you can download this article. It was published in 2011, so we want to make sure that the coverage includes 2011. This first one does. So here we'll actually click on View Full Text. It will bring us directly to that article. And from here, we can download the PDF. You want to make sure that when you download the PDF, you then officially download a copy to your computer or to a thumb drive. And if you're working on, say, a library computer, you want to make sure that you don't just save it to the desktop there. You want to make sure that maybe you email it to yourself, you put it on a thumb drive. All right. So if you didn't find the things that you wanted, you can go back to Web of Science homepage by just clicking on the title up here in the upper left. It'll take you back to your original search, and then you could refine that. You could either target your search a little bit more by adding more search terms, or maybe you didn't get enough resources, so you want to generalize it, so you can maybe include more synonyms in some of these areas, or maybe eliminate some of these terms. So there are all different kinds of ways to sort of change your search to potentially find more information. You can also use this search tip information over here on the right-hand side. Click there. And this includes all different kinds of ways that you can target your search or expand your search to find more resources that would work for you. We'll close out of that. So if you ever need more help, maybe you're not finding what you need, don't hesitate to contact me. Going back here to the Biology 202 Library Research Guide with my contact information. And this guide is also linked through the Learn platform. So within the Biology 202 Learn interface in the Ease Workshops folder, there will be a link directly to this guide. You could find some tips about your project. You can again find our recommended databases, and then you could see other related guides in areas of biology. And this concludes our session. Thank you.